Order online at picassospizza.net.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this Trainwreck Sports Podcast, where we are here to pay the bills. Jake Majka, joined as always by Mike Bundt, Carson Hayek. As we are here, it is Tuesday, August 12th, and Mike, Carson, James Cook was on the practice today. He was out there. He was getting working. Of course, the Bills insider, Adam Schefter, the first one to break it. Surely that wasn't just the agent getting him to send that specific picture out or anything. But James Cook was there. He was out there. Mike, what was your – let's just start hot right away. What was your were you surprised? What was your reaction to the news this morning? First from McDermott stating it kind of the way – honestly, we're going to have to talk about Sean McDermott as a side note in this episode at some point too. But James Cook being there, what was your reaction?
I was happy, but I wasn't really surprised or caught off guard by it. I don't know if it really even means anything, to be honest with you, because this whole hold-in has been odd to begin with. He practiced at the beginning, then he sat out 4 practices and a game, and now he's practicing again. Honestly, I don't know what to take away from it. I don't believe that they're closer to a contract. There hasn't been anything reported that that's the case. To me, it mostly comes down to he was probably frustrated that contract talks didn't move in the right direction. So he decided to sit some time out, send a message to the Bills, basically show his disappointment, displeasure. And really, what were the Bills going to do about it? Nothing. It was training camp, got a little bit of a break out of it. And McDermott probably went to him and was like, hey, man, we need you. These reps matter. You're a big part of our team this season. If you don't come back soon, we're just going to start handing some of those to Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. And if you want to lose some reps in a contract year, go ahead. Fine. We'll be able to move forward without you, and that's only going to hurt yourself. So I think there's probably a little bit of that, and maybe the Bills worked out some stuff where they'll please James Cook or satisfy some things that he's looking for. But ultimately, this was how it was always going to end up going. Cook was never going to be able to sit out indefinitely. He's not going to achieve anything in that type of situation. So we'll see if this means a contract is coming soon, but I wouldn't necessarily connect the two dots there.
Yeah, I mean, Bundt, I'm kind of with you on this. I don't know how much to necessarily take away from it. Him being back is certainly a plus, right? You want your number one guys to be out there getting the reps at this point in the year where it is kind of critical to get some of the chemistry down, knock the rust off, and kind of get back in the swing of things. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's a really good thing. But at the same time, the whole situation has been weird where it seems like McDermott got a little bit of frustration. He showed a little bit of frustration in the post-game presser where, hey, he wanted him to play in the preseason game. And then it just seemed like he was a little agitated by it. So for that to be, stated and McDermott to show that a little bit, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit with McDermott and what he said about Cole Bishop today and everything later. But for that to be shown, I think that kind of states hey, the Bills, we kind of need you. We need you to show up. And I was from the jump, I always thought it was never the best negotiating tactic to have Ray Davis and Ty Johnson start to take some of your reps away, because I think with the team and the line that's in front of these guys, I think that could come back to bite you and show not necessarily that Cook is not a great running back. He is. I think we all agree on that. But the fact that it could show you, hey, the running back position is still somewhat replaceable. So for him being back, I'm glad to see that. I think that's huge. Let's hope it stays that way and no shenanigans come out of it. But I think most importantly, I just don't want to see this become a distraction or anything that gets the eyes off the prize here. But so far, it seems from both sides at least respectful.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Carson. That's been one of the through lines through this whole thing, is that clearly Cook wants to be here and get paid by the Bills, and Bean loves the guy. Bean clearly values James Cook, because I don't think he'd be putting up with the way that it's been going if it wasn't a player that he loved, whether it's not emotion, probably just the production he gives on the field for them as much as anything else, and knowing how important he could be to this. You can tell it's something he's desperately wanted to get done, but also desperately knows where his value is at and how much he's willing to pay these guys. And I think he said as much the last couple of weeks. And the thing that is what we found out from he could, decide not to practice again this week or whatever, and he could start this process over again. But it seems like after McDermott saying, things have changed, and then he shows up exactly like you said, Mike. He had that conversation. It was like, listen, you had your fun, you got your show, you got to do this. It's not gonna like maybe it was just some tough love. Like, you're not getting the deal you want right now, so either show up or whatever we're gonna do. And I think a lot of this has been the Bills playing hardball, right? Like that, and that's what they have to do in this situation. There's nothing like he had no leverage to do anything really, and he tried to exude as much leverage as he could. And more power to him. They turned over a lot of stones this offseason, but we're able to keep it respectful, as you said, Carson, with the front office, where it's not a burned bridge at all. It's a situation where if he doesn't have a deal before the season starts and performs, maybe they do just sign him to whatever money he wants. Maybe he's worth it, like maybe he proves that he's worth it again too. But that's the situation that we were always going to be in. And having a guy in a contract year, if you're a team trying to win a Super Bowl and having a guy on a prove it deal, it's kind of a thing you want. Like, you need some of those guys. You need some of those guys who are going to have that kind of energy. And if it's James Cook, it could be the biggest benefit, honestly, for him being in this mode rather than a guy thinking that he, already got his money and everything else. It's just contract year guys. It's one of my sports tenets that I truly believe in, is beware of the contract year guy for him performing like crazy that year, but then when you sign him the next year and the drop off that can come from it too. So I think motivation can be a good thing, but he's also just a very important player to this team, one of the best backs in the league. So getting him back on the field today and getting at those reps, as I've stated to my belief, camp is so important. I'm sure Sean McDermott stressed that today too. It's just overall happy to see him out there. That was more the reaction than anything else. But I just think the whole process was silly. That's also what it comes down to. We got all this way to get back to where you were just going to end up. You look a little silly today, whoever it is, whether it's James or the agency or anything else at this point. But I appreciate the swing, I guess, at least. I don't know. That's where I'm at, though.
Yeah, none of it really made any sense, but I guess he got some rest. He ensured he wouldn't be injured for a week, and he got a little bit of a break. But yeah, what was really accomplished doesn't seem like much. And I don't see any contract extension happening before the season. I would love to be wrong. To me, even the reports from the national media over the last week about they're closer than what you think, and we think something's going to work out. I don't know if that's who they're getting that information from, if that's from Cook, if that's from the Bills, if it's hopeful thinking or what. But I never got the sense when you hear they're hammering things out, they're going to figure out a way to get this done. You hear wording like that. All this has ever been is, they're not as far away as you think. Maybe they get something done. It just doesn't seem to fit with what I'm hearing from Brandon Beane, where he says it takes two sides. A lot of it seems like maybe it's hopeful optimism from James Cook's camp or maybe agent, where the Bills, if we show them they're going to eventually get to where we're at. I don't think the Bills are budging. The Bills, in my opinion, it feels like they already have a number and they're probably close to it. And they're basically James, you can come down to our number or else have a good season and good luck in your future endeavors. That's the way I'm reading it, but I guess I could be wrong. And if James Cook really is thinking 14, 15 million, that's just delusional. The Bills should not even come close to that. I can max out at 12 million. And if they want to go crazy at 13, I can accept it. I don't want to, but anything over that number, anything over 13 is crazy talk to me. And I really would prefer it to be an 11 or $12 million contract at that.
Yeah, for sure. You look at what Kyron Williams got. I believe it was a 3-year, $11 or $12 million deal a year for him. So it's the market. That's kind of where your set in stone is. And Kyron Williams, he plays a little bit more, I think, than James Cook does. So when you're really weighing it like that, James Cook, I don't know. It's a tough spot for his camp. They're going to try to play a little bit of hardball at the same time. They need to be out there because they have to display their $15 million prize car out there. So it's tough. I don't think the Bills are going to fall for any of that hardball nonsense. I think the Bills, like you said, Bundt, have that dollar count in their head, and that's that. And whatever happens this year, maybe you come to renegotiate after that. But I think it's definitely just an interesting scenario how we've been in this Brandon Beane tenure for 7-8 years now, and this is like the first like kind of contractual hiccup we've had. So I think that's a kind of a statement to how things are ran at One Bills Drive. I think they're a tight run ship in that department. And again, even this though isn't disrespectful or anything like that. So just the mutual respect, I think, says a lot about how management does things over there. And this being, really your first notable contract hold in, I guess you could say. I think that says a lot. So I'm curious to see how they deal with this because it's the first conflict they've really had. But I think Brandon Beane's going to stay strong in the situation, and who knows what happens. But I cannot see a contract extension coming before the start of the year here.
That's why I'm more likely to believe that this is a James Cook situation issue more than a Brandon Beane situation, because obviously like there's some players you don't resign because you don't see a future for them on your team, right, or maybe they didn't live up to what your expectations were. But when the Bills see someone that typically performs and outperforms their rookie contract, they normally extend those players. We've seen 4 players, and granted, we probably didn't expect to have 4 of those 5 players extended this offseason. Last year, we were talking about like maybe you'll get 3 of them. So they've already gone beyond that with Benford, Bernard, and then obviously Shakir, and I'm missing one right now, but
Rousseau.
But it's interesting here because Brandon Beane does typically reward his players. So when you looked at Tremaine Edmonds, he walked because the Bills knew he was going to get way more than what they could get him, and Tremaine Edmonds ended up getting that, and maybe James Cook will at some point. It just does. I don't have that feeling that James Cook is going to cash in at what he thinks he's going to get, and it's tough because a lot of people devalue running back, and I think unfairly so. But in this situation, it's not devaluing James Cook. It's James Cook thinking that he's a top 3 running back in the league when the Bills are saying, no, you're probably 5 to 7. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have one side that's unwilling to move, I guess in this situation, James Cook can see what he can get during the offseason, and more power to him. We'll see if a team is willing to get him that 14, 15 million. In my opinion, I don't think any team is touching that number for him, but things change and maybe he can get it. And if he does, well, then he'll be proven right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the strategy that they take going beyond this season, looking at extension talks and everything else, because I'm a believer that I don't know how good does James Cook look on a middling NFL team when Josh Allen isn't your quarterback and you don't have one of the best offensive lines in the leagues too. Like, he's in great circumstance for him. Not saying that he's not talented and that he's not a big help to both those situations as well too. But grass is not always greener, especially in the NFL as a running back. And the thing is with him, if they trusted him last year, he would have been on the field. Maybe he's going to be more this year. I imagine he's going to get more snaps this year, and that's part of the thing too. Is like, hey man, you played 48% is not like, that's not even close to bell count. Like, if he wants to be at 60, you can't miss training camp, bro. Like, that's like gonna, like, at some point your actions are not meeting your words and you have no leverage. And I could see why you want to try to cash in this summer. You scored 16 touchdowns last year, tied for the NFL from 2. You had another great year. Everybody was pumping your tires, especially towards the back half of the year. That's you and Josh Allen, the best players on this team. Like, the momentum, you can see how you get into that mindset. But guys, there's no way. Like, I just keep coming back to the fact that there's no way he's scoring 16 again. And that's the way you get. If he scores 16 again, then pay him whatever. Like, if he's just all of a sudden like one of the most prolific touchdown scorers in the league, sure. But if he's back to like the top 10 running back this year, even if it's just a little bit of a regression, like, he's still a top 10 back, but he's not scoring as much, and he still only has like 1,000 yards, whatever, 950, whatever it is. Like, that's not getting him paid $12 million next year from a free agency. Like, it's not the value that they're asking for that bothers me. It's just the miscalculation of the market that they're sitting in at the moment, and the situation that they're sitting in. Like, I feel like in a vacuum, what they did was right but not with the Buffalo Bills going into this year. Like, it was the one team that you really couldn't do that with in this scenario. Maybe there's a couple of teams, but just seems like a miscalculation on my point. But I'm happy that he's back. I don't really have any other thoughts on James Cook. I'm glad that he's practicing. And hopefully we can just talk about him as a football player the rest of the year on this podcast. That would be lovely. Do you have any thoughts about either of you about Sean McDermott's press conference today? Because there was a shift in tone. I thought, at least. Did either of you pick that up? I think the Cole Bishop quote was the most stark with him talking, and it's pretty frank just about his injuries, but just like not a lot of time to get caught up to speed, right? Like, he was talking about Jordan Hancock also, like, not being close to being a guy that they trust. Like, he was very matter of fact with a lot of his updates today. Do you guys, Mike, do you have any thoughts about that? Did you have any kind of reaction to McDermott's press conference today?
I think he's just being blunt, and I can't say that's dramatically different. I feel like McDermott does say how it is at times. Sometimes he'll sugarcoat it. Sometimes he'll be upfront. In this situation, I guess you could interpret it as a little bit different tone, but it's getting real. We're entering the second week of the preseason right now. There is limited practices going forward. We're less than a month to the start of the regular season now, so you have less than 4 weeks to start. I think 27 days right now till Sunday Night Football. So they need guys healthy, and Cole Bishop has missed significant time. They need him out there. Jordan Hancock, while he's getting reps, he's a rookie, and anybody that's followed Sean McDermott in the way they've done things with the Bills in recent years should realize that a rookie is not going to just be handed opportunities. They have to earn it. So I don't think the comment about Hancock was really that far out there. Curtis Samuel, they need him out on the field too. Right now you have a wide receiver battle where your Savers is trying to make the roster. Moore is looking safe despite an underwhelming training camp so far. And if you had Samuel out there, you'd have a lot more be able to make a lot more definitive decision on what you want to do with the bottom of your receiver room, but you're kind of limited with that because you don't even know what Samuel's going to be doing. So it's one of those things where I think Sean McDermott's acknowledging, like, yes, we've had injuries. Yes, we're missing guys, but we really need these guys to start coming back to the field to really get good analysis of them and what their roles are going to be this year. We can project everything, but in Cole Bishop's situation, it's putting the Bills in a really tough situation. They want to see Cole Bishop starting for the team, but they don't have enough to like really give him the job at this moment, other than just his reputation and draft spot. And they don't like to reward people just based on that. So I think Cole Bishop's putting them in a tough spot to where if he doesn't return in the next week and a half, DeMar Hamlin might get the starting safety spot next to Taylor Rapp just by default. And then you're going into year two doing the same thing you did during his rookie year, where you're going to have to try to work his way into a starting role during practice and other things. And that's a frustrating thing for the coach. It's more like they're tired of having to deal with some of this stuff when this is supposed to be the healthiest you've been all year. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. It happens every camp, but I think it's some of the frustrations of year two for certain players like Samuel and Bishop. It's the same thing that they both dealt with in camp last year.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's frustration, 100%. I mean, Bishop is a guy who they have draft capital in, and he had a very inconsistent year last year when healthy, and that's kind of your worst nightmare when it comes to evaluating a player that's already injured on top of it. So when you really have a big question mark at one of your safety positions, I think that is certainly frustrating, and I think kind of McDermott showed that. But I'd also like to point out, I thought it was an observation that I made during halftime when he was talking to Matty Glab for about those 30 seconds. He seemed to be very frustrated with how the team was playing entering halftime. I mean, obviously it's a preseason game. I don't think he's super concerned about it, right? But it seemed like, he was a little irritated. Like he thought there was more to be given out there, and they just didn't reach what they wanted to reach as far as performance. So I think that was something I took note of, and also that just the competitiveness out of him in the fourth quarter. Dable wanted to just, drag it out of there with one quarterback sneak, call it a day. What does McDermott do? Sprints down the sideline, calls a timeout. Dable gets all pissed, but whatever. He'll figure it out. It's just, I don't know. I think McDermott's just, he's probably a little frustrated with the injuries at this point in time. Like, it's been brutal. Every day it seems like something new's coming out. So that's really, really hard for your team to kind of mold and mesh what you want to mesh into and grow in camp when you have guys banged up. So it's just tough. I think McDermott's frustrated with it, but I mean, I wouldn't be overly concerned, as I think a lot of it's preventative. So as long as these guys are good to go for the regular season, for the most part, I think they'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be frustrating. It's like you guys said with guys back-to-back years, but especially Cole Bishop, who's second-round safety. You know how they care. You know how they feel about safeties, everything else. Like it is disappointing, and I didn't even realize like that. It's stark when you look at the numbers of how much he's missed just this year too. It's like how many reps has this guy even had in the first couple of years to really pick this stuff up? It does feel like, and maybe we'll see more of that on Hard Knocks tonight too. But it does feel like that's what I mean with the tone shift, and you guys hit it perfectly. Like things are getting real, and these guys not being on the field is. They're starting to realize, or at least think, that it's going to have an effect on them, or at least effect on those players heading into the season. We're on August 12th. We're 3 weeks away from the season. And I think it was the starters, especially, I don't know, we can get into some of the preseason game thoughts, but there was a noticeable, there was a lot more effort coming from that Giants team. It looked like a lot of and I don't know if it's a preseason game. There's not a lot to take into it. You're playing vanilla, everything else, but I could see where McDermott was like, what's going on with these guys? The offensive line specifically, I think you saw when after Abdul Carter came off the field, they started mauling people because Abdul Carter was just a beast. But they were struggling at the beginning, and you could see like the frustration from the line specifically. And I was listening. I watched the first quarter later on, but I was listening to the first bit at the beginning, and Eric Wood was like pointing it out. He was like watching the guys on the side. He's like, this offensive line came out here on a mission because the last couple of drives it has not been good. So there are some things to work on, as there's always in these preseason games. Mitch Trubisky, it still looks weird. Like it didn't look smooth. Like the operation wasn't smooth. So I don't know. What was your takeaway, Carson? We'll start with you from the preseason game. Like
Well,
I know you had a lot of thoughts actually. So what was your biggest things you wanted to mention?
I'm glad you started off. You started off with that, because I got a lot of backlash for putting Deion Dawkins on a stock down list. But I want to explain myself in that situation. First of all, stock up, stock down. I understand that's for guys on, trying to make that 53. They're your 50, 51, 52, 53 battle guys, right? I do understand that. But at the same time, we cannot make an excuse. I think it is notable to put out there that your 4-time Pro Bowl left tackle is getting his ass whooped, rep in and rep out by a rookie. I get Abdul Carter is phenomenal. I think he's going to be an absolute beast. But like when he's getting spun around and he's making Mitch Trubisky fight for his life back there, I think that's notable, right? Like I think that's something where Deion's gonna be fine. He's an absolute beast. One of the best tackles in the game. I have 100% faith in him. But I think that's notable to take note of. Like if the struggles continue, which they probably won't, like, hey, like there's a trend here. But also I've also had some people say, hey, Deion's effort wasn't, up to par. First of all, there should be no concern in effort. I don't care if it's a preseason game. I don't care if it's a scrimmage. I don't care if you're playing in the backyard. The amount of money you're getting paid to do that should be zero concern with effort. But at the same time, people point out it'll back up Deion Dawkins' effort. But then we'll go to an all-22 clip in the red zone when Jackson Dart makes a hell of a throw, and we'll circle DeMar Hamlin when he's in single high coverage and say, oh, his effort's shitty. Let's call him out for that. So to me, that's a little contradictory. Well, that's the only problem I had with that. Past that argument, as far as that's concerned, Matt Beauvais had a great question for McDermott after the game, like 1 through 10, how do you guys prepare? 1 being nothing for preseason games, 10 being you guys watch a ton of tape and you're fully prepared. McDermott basically said 1. So I think that kind of tells you all you need to know. Like they want guys to react, they want them to play freely, and they just want to see what they have as far as athletes are concerned. So I think that's important to know. And then secondly, like as far as my takeaways, the depth tight end room, Zach Davidson, I'm high on him. Horrendous game. That was not what I was looking for. Jackson Hawes, you kind of knew you weren't really getting a receiving type out of that, more of a blocking guy. So, he looked good in the blocking game. And then defensively, I thought Trey White was a little weary, I'd say. Like, we've heard a lot of good things from him from camp, but, there are a few throws and catches that he allowed up. So, I think it's just a little bit of time for him to get back in the system. We'll see how that goes. And then Landon Jackson, he's another guy that fan favorite. Love him. I love the guy. He was a great interview a few weeks ago. But we can't be lining up offsides, costing us an interception when Jordan Hancock gets the ball thrown right to him by Jameis Winston. That can't happen. Like, if it's something else where it's like, hey, maybe he, doesn't – thank you, Alex. If he, takes a wide 9 technique, rushes upfield or something like that, something technical, I'm okay with that. When we have a mental error when it comes to offsides, like, that just can't happen. I know that frustrates the coaching staff. So it's the little stuff like that. But on the bright side, I thought, Mike White looked great. I thought Brad Robbins, who I had concerned about, he looked phenomenal. And then Jordan Hancock was an absolute beast. But I guess my rants for takeaways on week 1 of preseason and all the overreactions some people, including myself, would love to think are out there. So I guess, what do you see in week 1 of the preseason?
So first, I want to applaud you on learning a valuable lesson that even when you put out useless stock up, stock down for a preseason game, that will cause an uproar and a huge reaction. So you're now part of the Trainwreck team.
Yes, sir.
With getting reactions. My first thing I'll say back to you is you're right to point out that Deion Dawkins played very poorly, but I'm going to tell you that it means absolutely nothing.
I agree.
And you did do a good job of saying that you're not worried about it, which is the right take, because this happens every single August. Deion Dawkins, every single preseason, tanks it in. Like, he does not put much into preseason football. I remember a couple years ago going on Twitter Spaces and people being like, is Deion cooked? Is he done? Like, the dude looks slow. He looks out of touch. He doesn't have it anymore. And I told people he just needs to get in game shape. He's a little bit slow getting transitioned, and he'll be fine in the regular season. And he killed it. This is the same old every year with Deion. And it's like spring training back in the day with baseball players. They'd drink all off season. They'd come to Florida out of shape, and then they would have to get back into it and adjust. And I'm not saying that Deion is out of shape, but sometimes it takes a little bit of an adjustment. So I'm not worried about Deion at all. Really, like, as far as like the offensive line too, like, this unit has so much continuity from both a starter and backup perspective that they already really know who's making it. We know they're good. I don't think they need to prove it in the regular season. We know what the running backs are going to look like. For the most part, we know what the receivers are going to look like, the tight ends. So really nothing on offense really concerns me. Yes, we have a backup quarterback battle. If it's Mike White, Mitch Trubisky, I don't care. I don't care because they're both average backups at best. And most likely, if either of them are in the game, your season is not going the way you need it to go anyway, unless they can like steal you a game or play a game or two. But if they're playing significant time, at best, you're hoping to try to get a wild card or sneak into the playoffs. So it's over anyway. The only thing that matters in these preseason games are positional battles and seeing what some of the youngsters do. So I was encouraged by TJ Sanders. I was encouraged by Deion Walker. I think both of those rookies showed some flash. Deion Walker a little bit more flash. Sanders more consistency. We got to see Jordan Hancock and obviously Dorian Strong. And Strong had some low moments. Hancock had some decent moments, but as McDermott said, still a ways away. And then some other positions, Tyrell Shavers. That's a guy who has had a great camp. Looks like he's competing for one of the final roster spots, and he ends up making a huge play, really helping his case that he should be making this team. Even a guy like Laviska Shenault getting a 2-point conversion reception. So a guy like that helping out his case a little bit. There's definitely things to discuss. One thing I do want to discuss is the bottom of the receiver depth chart, but I don't want to be the one that transitions into it. I'll let Jake say his part, and then we can talk about it because I lost some Twitter followers for saying some things that
Oh no.
people didn't like. Don't worry, I gained more than I lost, but still, some people didn't like it, what I said, and I'd like to explain it at some point further, and we can have a conversation about it.
Okay, well, that's a great team. We'll get into that in a second. You guys made a lot of great points about the preseason game. I do have to ask you a question, Mike, and I have to ask Carson the same question. I understand you make a lot of good points about the backup quarterback group. That really both these guys are completely average quarterbacks, and if Josh Allen's hurt, none of this matters anyways. We're going to be very depressed on this podcast every week talking about the Bills, but I have to ask Mike first and then Carson. I know Carson's answer already, but I need to ask Mike first. Who's better vibes for the quarterback room, Mike White or Mitch Trubisky, and for the fans in general too? I think it's Mike White at this point. I think Mike White is the new guy, the new fresh face in town, and fans are rallying behind him. If it was a presidential election, I'd put him at like 52-48. But that it's within the margin for error. It could flip, but I think Mike White's got the fan base. I really do.
Yeah, Mike White. I think more fans want Mike White at this point, but let me ask you this: how good are fans at evaluating quarterbacks? So, do I really care what the vibe is? I don't care one bit, Jake. I don't care one bit, because here's the thing: like, Mitch Trubisky was a former number 2 overall pick who started as a young player, guided his team to the playoffs, should have won a playoff game, and his problem was he was too much like Trent Edwards. He's too conservative. He doesn't take enough chances, and he's never lived up to his raw ability. And he's had chances to start in Pittsburgh as well, and just never really stepped up. You know what you're getting. You're getting very mediocre to low-end quarterback play. But as a backup, he's good enough to get you by in a pinch. He knows the system. You know what he can do. You know what he can't do. And you really, more of the backup is not about expecting to get a high ceiling. It's about knowing what you're getting. And if you know what you're getting, you can at least game plan for it. The problem with Mike White is this. I'm not necessarily a problem. Mike White is the guy that never should have gotten to this point, where he was a no-name on the Jets, who was a third stringer, who basically got into his situation by a little bit of luck and then meeting opportunity. And when he had the opportunity, he put up some flashy numbers. But the Jets were so bad that anything even resembling quarterback play was going to make you look terrific. So then he goes to Miami. People expect him to be the backup. And guess what? He was a third stringer in Miami. He wasn't behind a good backup. He was behind Skylar Thompson. So I don't know who views Skylar Thompson as some stud backup. I don't. Like, he's not anything special to me. If you ask me Mitch Trubisky or Skylar Thompson, I'm saying they both suck. So I don't think that's anything special. So the Jets didn't view him good enough to really keep him. Miami Dolphins didn't view him that good. But now I'm supposed to believe that, like, because he can complete a couple tight window throws, like, he's impressive. The reason why Mike White impresses is because he's not afraid of making throws that a lot of other quarterbacks won't make. It's like Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick, for most of his career, was a below average quarterback, but he wasn't afraid of taking chances. So you had a lot of good with a lot of the bad. That's what Mike White is. He'll have moments where he can make great plays, but the reason why he's been a career third stringer for the most part is because he makes a lot of very bad plays. And if you have the Bills, a team that defensively can get it done on a game-by-game basis, they might have more confidence having a quarterback that can win them a 17-13 game, run the ball, run the offense, do some play action, than having a quarterback that, yeah, maybe you could score 24, but he's also going to throw a pick six that's going to cost you the game with 3 minutes left. And that's what I think this competition is right now. It's between the safe guy and the unsafe guy, and ultimately the safe guy isn't going to put up much excitement, but you know what you're getting. The unsafe guy, he's going to have a lot of fun moments, but when he throws 3 picks in this first game action and you lose 27 to 24, you're going to be like, God, if we just had the safe guy, we could have won this game. So that's the way I view it. And I know that's a lot of generalization, but they're screwed either way if either of those quarterbacks are playing. So do I care? No. I would rather have Chase Daniel or somebody random like that than who they have right now.
What Jake left out with his election comparison was that 0.01% in the lower column that says Shane Buechele. But that guy.
That's my mom, the Texas fan, who's Shane Buechele, former Texas court for a year.
No, but between these two guys, like I think Mike White is probably the hot hand right now at the fan base. Like, first of all, Skylar Thompson, Kansas, he was not going to be slandered on the Pay the Bills podcast. Like, he put some respectable years up with Kansas State. Okay. Anyway,
Kansas State. We're talking now. We're going back to college. I can talk about Nathan Rourke. I can talk about Curtis Rourke.
CFL legend quarterbacks. Anyway. Yeah, I think Mike White's the hot hand, right? Like with the offense with Mitch, when he got the reps with the first stringers, like it looked a little wonky. Again, though, your backup quarterback, like you want to take care of the football, game manager. And I think Mitch can do that for you at a serviceable level. I think he's a guy that if you need him in a crunch, he can go 11 for 18 in the game for 175 and maybe a touchdown pass, right? With the defense, I guess it depends. Like if we have last year's defense, I don't know how confident I am in Mitch Trubisky to win us a game against a team that's maybe 9 wins or better, right? But at the same time, like your backup's in, you're already playing with one hand behind your back. I think Mike White's ceiling is definitely much higher. I think that one game he had against the Bengals a few years ago with the Jets prolonged his career tenfold. At the same time, though, you could feel the confidence off of him, right? Like he knows he can make a few throws that maybe some guys can't. He's a very confident guy, pocket passer, and he's also smart. So right now, if I had to lean one way or another, as much as I love Mike White, and I think the team would probably say the same thing unless they're really trying to rub two nickels together, because financially the better option is Mike White. I think they're probably leaning Mitch Trubisky, but again, their stats were basically the exact same. Mike White had 2 drops on I think the opening 2 drives of the game, and he was playing with the 2s and 3s, and Mitch was getting reps with the 1s. So I don't know. It'll be interesting if they flip this coming weekend where Mike gets reps with 1s. Maybe I think then you're really onto something. But if Mitch comes out with the 1s again, I think you're definitely still leaning on Mitch. I'd say it's like minus 125 Mitch at this point.
They're not passing up Mitch start running out that game in Chicago, even if it's just a preseason game. They're giving him that op.
I didn't even think about that because I assumed that Mike White would get the start, but it'll be interesting if Josh Allen plays at all. And if he doesn't, if Mitch Trubisky gets the start in Chicago, that would kind of like show where things are.
Right. Yeah. Very much. I will say it seemed like Josh was wanted to play some snaps, like without pushing in his presser the other day. Like, hey, I'd like to play. Like, I know I could get some work in, but this is a national TV game on Sunday night too. Not saying that the Bills care about that stuff, but they are on Hard Knocks. This is going to be a standalone game. They could have been like, hey, if you're going to play Josh, like this could be the one. This would be the one we would like him to play in too. Just saying. The powers that be do.
What do you think the Bills would ever do in a situation where, like, say Josh went out in a preseason game? I'm going to be quiet when I say this. Something happens.
Yeah.
And they needed somebody else. Like, do you think they would go into the year with like Mike White and Mitch Trubisky, or do you think they would try to pull like a trade for like Jameis Winston or something like that?
I was going to say you got to call Tyrod and get him back immediately.
Oh my God, Tyrod then is he to the playoffs? He wins the Super Bowl. We have a Tyrod Taylor statue outside the new stadium. That honestly.
Oh, he has knee surgery. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, that's not happening. But that would have been a great story. It unfortunate.
That's the one. That was, but they could. Jameis would be a. Jameis
can play.
Jameis, I could see it.
Like you think about that. That's how the Eagles won their first Super Bowl. Like literally, Carson Wentz gets hurt. Nick Foles guides them to the Super Bowl. It would be ironic, like if the Bills won their first Super Bowl and it was like someone other than Josh Allen,
Shane Buechele,
like Shane Buechele guiding them on like a 4-game winning streak. Like you think about it though, like stuff like that happens. Cardell Jones won a national championship for Ohio State. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl for obviously for the Eagles. It was Reich that got the Bills in the greatest comeback ever. So like sometimes crazy things like that happen. So
Absolutely. John makes a good point here. Who does Josh Allen like more? That's going to be a lot goes into it. See, that's Mitch been there longer, but you never know. Maybe Mike is a better Catan player and better partner. Who knows? There's a lot of variables we don't know going into this apparently, but it's going to be interesting to see. I do think they're going to give Mitch a nice opportunity Sunday in Chicago, I think, to try to do something. I hope he looks better than he did. He did have some nice throws. Don't get me wrong. There's a couple plays. Sure. that he looked good on, but you want to see just a smoother, I don't think we can all agree, just a smoother go at it. But let's talk about, Mike, you brought up the wide receivers, and now we're getting some questions into here and comments into here. 6 weeks ago, Steve thought the wide receiver room was pretty cut and dry. Not the case anymore. Wilkerson get talking there. We're going to talk a lot about Curtis Samuel, I'm sure. And then Ryan just asked us to give a prediction for the wide receiver core here too. So I think we do have to pivot here and talk wide receivers, and we can give a prediction. But so Mike, yeah, you were fighting the good fight the other day. How are you feeling? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this receiver room, and I think it's a better group than what a lot of people thought going into the summer. But some of the areas I think it's better are different than what fans thought would be the contributing factors. Going into training camp, a lot of people were high on Elijah Moore, and they were obviously, some people thought he could be their number one, number two receiver on this team, which is clearly not going to be the case based on what's happened so far early in camp. But what has stood out to me so far is that you have a clear 1, 2, 3, and it's not necessarily the order I expected going into camp, but this is where it sits right now. Khalil Shakir is your number one receiver. Volume, yards, all that stuff. Yes, he's in the slot. He's not what you'd call your number one, but he's, for all intents and purposes, their number one. Keon Coleman has elevated to their number two level receiver. And that's probably interchangeable with Josh Palmer, but both of those guys have the ability to go off any given day. Coleman is going to get it done, obviously, in contested catch situations. And then he's also going to be able to do things yards after the catch on slants and short passes and let him do things with the ball. While Palmer is going to be the intermediate guy, he's going to be a vertical threat. He's going to get things downfield. I swear, every time I'm watching Palmer in camp, it's a 15 to 25-yard catch. That's where he's at. While Keon, they kind of mix it up. There's times he's downfield. There's times it's shorter. And then Shakir, he just finds ways of getting open underneath. Same with, obviously, tight end Dalton Kincaid, who has had good moments in camp. And I think there's an expectation he's going to elevate too. Where the questions and some of the disappointment is going to be is wide receiver 4 or 5 right now. Before the season, I think a lot of people were hoping the Bills would kind of reduce Curtis Samuel and that Elijah Moore would take over and really be a solid number 4. And I understand that Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel are two different receivers with different things they bring to the table and different top skill sets. But as Curtis Samuel has been out in camp, they've been having Elijah Moore do more of the things that Curtis Samuel does. A lot of Bills fans thought, okay, Elijah Moore, he's really fast. He can get separation. They're going to use him as a vertical threat. I have not seen that much at all in camp. There's a reason this guy averaged 8.8 yards per reception last year on 61 receptions and over 100 targets. And it's not because the Browns didn't think he could be a vertical threat. If there was any indication that Moore was a vertical threat, he would have averaged more than 8.8 yards per reception last year. They threw it to over 100. They threw it to him over 100 times. Like 8.8 yards per reception. That's awful. I didn't know. That's like being a running back. So those aren't great numbers right there. I think Moore is safe right now, and I think Samuel. I don't know the story on Samuel. What's gonna happen? A lot of that is going to be dependent on when does Samuel come back to practice, and what does he do when he comes back to practice. Him not being available kind of shook things up. If Samuel was practicing and he was looking good, I think Moore could have become expendable for the Bills in this situation. But Samuel has been out, which means you don't have any insurance if you get rid of Moore, because then you have a Samuel that's been dealing with hamstring injuries, and then you risk not having any depth behind your top 3. So I think at this moment in time, they're probably going to keep 6. Obviously, the top 3 guys I mentioned, I think Samuel and Moore both make it. Samuel will probably be the gadget guy still. Moore will be depth, backing up both Khalil Shakir and Samuel, meaning if Shakir is out, Moore will do the stuff in the slot, I think, that would take over for Shakir. And if Samuel's out, Moore's going to focus more on some of that gadget part of the offense. And then you add Shavers as the sixth man just because he's been outstanding. And I know McDermott referenced needing to see what he can do special teams. He better be able to bring in special teams. That was his specialty in college. So I don't know if he can't get it done special teams. That's quite the change in 3 years coming out of San Diego State, where he was one of the best special teams players in the Mountain West Conference at that period of time. And Shavers has been fantastic. And there's been practices where he's gotten reps with the ones, where he's gotten the one practice on a Monday. He had nearly 10 catches, and not 10 targets, pardon me. He must have been targeted like 7-8 times and had a good 4 or 5 receptions in that practice and going up against one. So Shavers is more than just a story at this point. He's shown he's an NFL caliber wide receiver. But as I said, Moore has been the biggest disappointment for me. He has not shined in practice. And if you listen to people from Cover One and Eric, who a lot of great insight, he'll say that's not surprising. He's trying to learn multiple different roles, what Shakir does, what Samuel does. It's a lot, and it takes time. I respect that. I get that. But this is a guy that's had close to 120 receptions the last 2 years in the NFL. For him to come to Buffalo after all the talk that, like, Josh Allen's going to help elevate him to another level, and then be non-existent during training camp, to be not even record, I believe, a catch in the first preseason game, that's disappointing. I get that he was wide open down the field and that if Mitch Trubisky looked his way, he would have made a big play, and that would change the perspective of a lot of fans. My view isn't based on one preseason game. My view is based off of 7 practices that I attended, with him not making much of an impact in any of them. And also during those practices, isolating on him during positional drills, seeing him drop the ball multiple times, and then also him practicing during days where Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, and Curtis Samuel were out, and then being outshined by Keon Coleman and Tyrell Shavers, while guys like Jalen Virgil and Christian Wilkerson are making plays down the field, and yet I'm not seeing any Elijah Moore. So fans are going to be harsh on me for my opinions, but I'm saying everything based on what has actually been going on at practice. They can say it based on what they project, based on what he's done in previous seasons, but this guy was not signed until after the draft, which means 32 teams decided not to sign him before that. They were open to drafting someone as another option. They just didn't get their guy. Then they gave him a $5 million contract. And if he really is all that, why did the Jets and the Browns, 2 teams that are desperate need for weapons, decide he was worth moving on from? The Jets gave up on him after 2 years. The Browns could have re-signed him. Yes, like maybe it took a little less money in Buffalo, but the Browns could have re-signed him and got him a little more money. They didn't. And that was their number 2 receiver last year. So what I want to caution Bills fans is, like, Elijah Moore is talented. He's going to make the team. He might even have a valuable role depending on injuries and other things that take place. And his role can change between now and the season. But anyone going in thinking like this guy is a 60, 70, 80 catch guy who's going to get like 800, 900 yards, they're on drugs. It's way more likely this guy is a 20 to 30 catch guy for 300 yards than he is anything high volume, high target related. And if you're using numbers from Cleveland, realize he was wide receiver 2. Mm-hmm. If he's wide receiver 4 in Buffalo, and you already have Khalil Shakir, who's going to get 90 to 100 targets, you have Kincaid, you have Palmer, you have Coleman. How many more footballs are there to go around to get more to those same numbers he had in Cleveland?
It's a great point. I mean, I'm with you. On my takeaway list, Elijah Moore was on the stock down. People had a problem with that. But I think there is more to it. Like he has been quiet throughout camp when guys have gone down, and he's almost been your best weapon as people would project. So it's been really, really quiet on his front. But I guess to answer the question that was previously at hand, I guess my 6 would be Shakir, Moore, Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer, and then Tyrell Shavers. I think it's going to be that 6th spot. But if I had to guess, like on game day, it's a redundant role between Rondale Moore and Curtis Samuel. I bet they dress 5.
Elijah
if I had to guess right now, I think it's probably Curtis Samuel, who's the one who's the healthy scratch. But who knows how it goes? Maybe a guy goes down. Maybe Shakir, although he's predicted to be ready, maybe he faces a setback. Let's hope not. So you really know how you don't know how it goes, but it's good to have depth like that. And I mean, a few guys I want to keep an eye on though is Chenault. He looks solid. Makes a nice play on a fade ball, back shoulder, great throw by Mike White. I'll just give him the compliment as it is. I always do. And then Caden Prather made a play or two. He definitely, they got a little bit of draft capital, 7th round pick out of Maryland. So I think he could be a guy that's practice squad bound, almost like a Isaiah Hodgins type of player I could see possibly developing into. And then my guy, phenomenal story. Shout out Dan Faith for this story. I believe it was him. Hopefully I'm not wrong with that. But Steve Gosnell, White Steve, as they call him in the wide receiver room. I mean, he made, I think 4 catches the other day, and he's an incredible story, a guy who really didn't do a whole lot in college. So I hope he continues to light it up. I'm excited to see what he can do on the preseason. And if Hard Knocks, if you're somehow watching this, please pick up on this dude. And if he's not shown tonight, I'm going to be disappointed because seems like he's got all the makings of a great story.
It is going to be interesting. That's a great segue. I do want to get into some of our Hard Knocks thoughts and predictions here as we wrap up. I'm with you. I think we all have the same receiver room. I feel like the expectation, everything you said, Mike, the expectations are fine. Listen, I'm the wrong person to be talking about this too, because I've never thought Elijah Moore was going to be. I was not big on him in the process. Never really saw it as much as everybody else. I think I didn't know. Listen, when a guy
high on him, right? We know why everybody's high on him. It's because they look at Pro Football Reference or ESPN.com, wherever they get their stats. They see 61 catches for close to 600 yards, and they think, pair him with Josh Allen, he's going to be unbelievable. And it's people that have never watched him. Then I was
going to say it's fantasy football. It's people who look at fantasy football rankings and rate their football players.
And then they see two people tweet a video of minicamp, and they're like, "Oh, look at that cut right there! Ooh, that's a smooth route. That's quick." And they're like, "Oh, this guy is gonna change things up," just like we did with like Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy, Isaiah McKenzie becoming a slot receiver, like every other like receiver in minicamp. We do it every year. Who is the Tavon Austin? Like
wow, that's a pull.
We do it every single year, and yet those same fans fall for it every single year.
Yeah,
that's the way it goes.
That is the way the cookie crumbles there. Sometimes, what can you say? It's people just want they love as you said, the projection of it all, right? Like just the excitement, the shiny new toy here. I'm just saying, like the guy who decided to piss like a dog in his rivalry game and cost his team the game. I didn't have a lot of faith that he was going to turn into the hardworking pro. I'm just saying, guys, sometimes you just got to take things for what they are. And someone who's willing to do that, it'd have to be a big turnaround for him to turn into a superstar. So I think Elijah Moore ended up kind of exactly where he should have ended up, to be honest. But that's it. We'll see what happens. Maybe he catches like the game-winning pass in the Super Bowl this year we're just like Elijah Moore is now like one of the greatest Bills of all time. That's best case scenario. You never know.
I don't have
one catch, 9 yards, touchdown.
I just want to put out there, I have nothing against the guy because like I feel like I have been outspoken about it when not many people have been, including a lot of reporters. I don't really think a lot of reporters are even really talking much about Elijah Moore because a lot of things in Bill's podcast land is like fanboy, like let's cheer, always be optimistic. Let's not point out any of the negatives that are going on unless it's something the whole fan base is already like on the same page on. I have nothing wrong with Elijah Moore, like as a player or a person. Like I hope he kills it, but it's almost like the fan base is at a certain point, and I'm just trying to bring him back down to like reality. And maybe
good luck.
And maybe I take it a little too far at times, trying to like pull in that direction. But if I do that, it's more so because I just want us to be like a little more realistic. Because when he doesn't go off for 800, 900 yards, there's going to be fans that are going to be pissed off, and they're not going to know whether to blame Moore, the coaching staff, Joe Brady, anybody but Josh Allen, because he has no faults, as we all know. But it's just one of those things where, like, I don't want unrealistic things pushed upon me.
That's fair, Mike. You are nothing but real. Any other thoughts on this wide receiver room before we go to Hard Knocks?
Hey, I mean, look, they got the makings. They have all sorts of characteristics, traits. They're all a little bit different. Everybody eats 2.0. Like Bundt said, it's nothing personal when it comes to Elijah Moore. Like, hey, known friend of Trainwreck Sports, even did an interview with Bunty. Like, hey, so I'm just curious to see how it plays out. Maybe Samuel or Moore are one of those surprise cuts, and maybe there's somebody, that comes in from a different position, whether that's, maybe like corner or defensive line where they're a little deep. So who knows? Maybe something like that happens. Maybe they only keep 5. Like I remember my boy Brandon Riley. He was one of my favorite Bills preseason wide receivers back 2017, 2016 days. Never ended up making it. Hopefully, one of those guys who's lower give one of these guys a shot as competition breeds excellence. So we'll have to see how it turns out, but I have confidence at the end of the day in this wide receiver group.
I do too. I mean, I don't want to sound my talk about Elijah Moore. I have extreme confidence in the room. I think you guys too. I think that we're all bullish, but let's the roles that are going to be played are not going to be what people thought. I think it is. I think we're going to see that 3 receiver set, like you said, a lot more. As much as everybody eats, as they're going to say, let's see how much it happens as much this year as it was next year. I feel like these roles are extremely defined compared to last year, where it was like, let's see how it plays out a little bit. Let's see who develops the chemistry with Josh and who starts picking it up and everything else. Now we're in, year 2 with a lot of these guys, a couple years in with Joe Brady now, and just some rapport with the coordinator, with the quarterback, and with his targets in a way that they haven't had the last couple of years. I'm just excited to see how it pours out in that way. But Hard Knocks tonight, episode 2. Carson, what was your thoughts and reactions from the first episode? Anything that stuck out to you, and do you have any expectations, predictions for what will be covered tonight?
Well, I'd say to touch on episode 1, it's Hard Knocks, right? So no matter what they do, it's going to be high quality stuff. It's going to be entertaining. And when it's your team, what else can you ask for? That's awesome, right? But that first episode, I would say, went exactly how the Bills wanted it to go. No drama. They didn't cover the Khalil Shakir injury. They didn't cover James Cook's hold in. They didn't cover any of that. Instead, they went with Deion Dawkins out to the Seneca racetrack or whatever. They drifted for a few minutes, called it a day. I think that is exactly how the Bills wanted that to go. Although it's a little bit boring, I wouldn't even say boring is the right term for it, right? But when you have the Cleveland Browns on a few years ago, and you have Wiley, their offensive line coach, his whole gut moves, and you have Keon Coleman crying to Hugh Jackson about requesting a trade. That is what people want to see. That is what made that series special. But at the same time, the Bills aren't none of that. That's what makes them great. They're lunch pail type of guys. They show up to work, they put their head down, and there's not a ton of drama unless, a few things go on with contracts and you're wearing number 4. So I think Hard Knocks is going to eventually dive into that. So that brings me to my episode 2 predictions. So that'll be coming out in a few minutes here. I think they're going to have no choice but to look at James Cook's contract situation. So I'm excited to see, maybe do we get a little reasoning that we haven't heard before, on what's going on, what's going on behind closed doors. So I think that'll be interesting. And really, I also think, though, I think it's just going to be more so maybe you get, like I said, the Steven Gosnell, maybe you get a look from him or one of the guys on the bottom of the depth chart who maybe Hard Knocks is making a push for, a fan favorite. And then lastly, I think it's just going to be, again, kind of what the Bills want, though. I don't think you're going to be seeing anything ridiculous. You're going to get your first preseason game. You might get a good bid or two, but I think this is exactly how the Bills want it to go. No super climatic type of scenes where people are requesting trades or any of that stuff. I think this is how the Bills want it to go. It's going to be low key. People are going to respect this team, and the Bills are going to run with that.
So one thing I would love to see is somehow me sneaking in an appearance on the episode. That would be pretty cool. But seriously, I will say there was one moment where I was interviewing Joe Andresen, and they had a boom mic over me. So I'm not saying, but like they have footage. They have footage. They might get
Plus 200 odds.
They might get some of my back in there. So that'd be pretty cool. I don't expect it though. That would be fun though. But realistically, you hit it on the nail, Carson. The first episode was boring. I know you said it wasn't a great describing word for it. No, but it was a great describing word. Bills fans thought it was entertaining. We loved it. But if it's not just about the Bills fan base, it's what do people across the country think of it? And if you were a fan of any other team or a football guy and you watched the episode, you'd say, damn, like there's not much going on that's entertaining over there. There's no drama. There's nothing so the first episode really was kind of dry, I thought, from an entertainment value. I enjoyed it because I'm glad the Bills don't have all that crazy stuff going on. Tonight, you're going to see a lot of James Cook. It's going to be a lot of James Cook wasn't here today. James Cook wasn't here tomorrow. James Cook wasn't there the next day. James Cook showed up for the preseason game, but he didn't play. And obviously they're not going to know, they already edited the show together before today, so they're not going to have the update on Cook returning to practice. Steve, that is a great point.
I will say, Mike, last week, our friends at Shout had an interview with the Hard Knocks producers. They said they wrapped the episode at 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday for the 9 p.m. debut.
Oh, really? So they could. Okay, so they'll probably have an update on that.
They might have a little spot at the end of him with some. Maybe that's the picture. Maybe that's why Shefty put out the picture, bro. That's gonna be the final thing.
That would be interesting. That'd be good. That would be a good end of the episode. Like start it with Cook, not not doing much, and then end it with Cook showing up. I do appreciate this, Steve. If I got in Hard Knocks, that would be the Pat McAfee show, Hard Knocks, and Spit and Chicklets within one calendar.
Oh yeah,
quite the trio.
That is quite the trio. Which is funny because it just things I never would expect. But I think you're going to see a lot of James Cook today. Obviously, they're going to focus on the preseason game. Players that they did focus on certain individual players. I think Joe Andreessen might get some time from what I saw during camp. They got video of him talking to his family the one day. They got video of him doing a few other things. So I think Buffalo Joe is going to get some time today. You'd think Keon at some point is going to get some airtime just based on his early start to camp. And then we'll see. I don't really have any other predictions outside of that, but it should be a fun one. I can't wait to see what happens today because they definitely have more storylines to go into this one than what they did week one.
Yeah, definitely. I think Fatty Beer confirmed that they are part of the show with a segment about Buffalo Joe. So I'm pretty sure that we're getting some Buffalo Joe action.
If I do get in this somehow, this is I'll probably be the most annoying person in the world.
Twitter will not hear the end of this.
I was gonna say we're posted. It's gonna be posted.
I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna share it, but it's not gonna be you guys that'll be annoying too. People on online, fine. It's gonna be for all the people at work who used to joke oh, Mike, he just does that train wreck thing, and then they see me at practice and they're like, oh cow, holy cow, you actually have access. But then on Hard Knocks would be inescapable because it would be in all of their faces. So I would just go to work. I wouldn't even say anything. I'd just walk around smiling, quiet, and just be just
humble guy.
Yeah, just a humble guy. Most humble guy in the world.
Well, I'm waiting with bated breath. We got 23 minutes until Hard Knocks. Thank you. We paid the bills here, though. So we're going to go get ready for the show. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Carson, for joining. Thank you to our sponsor, Picasso's Pizza. Get your pizza at picassospizza.net anywhere in the U.S. That's all, folks. Go Bills.